ShopDog's excited because we've been out here working over the last few days trying to figure this out. This is actually a real pain in the neck. So every time I've got a few found moments, I've been trying to sort out how we're going to do this. I underestimated how difficult this part of the job was going to be. But going from, one, that tiny little Mitsubishi alternator, which is probably like 45 amps or something, to a 100 amp alternator, I knew that was going to cause some issues, especially since we're taking, obviously the water pump away. But no matter what I'm doing, and I've been playing with different bolts and lengths and offsets and, playing with some brackets off the floor and off the things, you can see there's even a socket there. This was actually one of the most promising positions that I had found. And then, of course, the obvious things are obvious now is the motor for the electric fan interferes here. And I run into problems here where I'm either going to be running into this hose or this. So I've still got to pull that out further. The downside is, of course, that gave me the best clearance to that hose. But, 3 things at a time. This has turned out to be quite the complicated problem to solve. So I haven't been filming it because it's been a lot of me just playing with bolts and spacers and sockets and stuff and trying to figure out where I can place the alternator. I really had hoped to use the original bracket, this thing here in some way, but this fits this cute little tiny alternator. It does not fit a regular normal size alternator because this looks like it's based on like a 10 SE or a 12 SE. Well, look at the fan. It's a 12 SE case. So that's not going to work out well for me. So working on that. But I figured I've been putzing on this. I probably got 4 or 5 hours here. Haven't filmed anything. And I thought, it's probably time to do an intro because I'll probably putz on it a little more this weekend. Now, this is a spot I have looked at before, and unfortunately, I just wind up having to cut too much car away, and then we got to go to an electric fuel pump, and yeah, this idea kind of goes quick. And I've already tried moving it down lower and swinging it out, but then I wind up moving too much of the body, which I'd really rather not. And from this point, not a lot of pivoting either. And no matter what, if I use this point and try to pivot up high, which of course still has the same belt problem, I have to machine some of that out. So just still thinking. There's a solution. I just don't know what it is. But one thing I do know is the back of the alternator cannot be against this plate. It puts us out of alignment by by about that much. So, still thinking. I'm probably going to have to, make a new adapter plate. Maybe I can put this pivot point way up here somehow and pull the belt. Not sure yet. Got to think on that. Alright, I think I'm heading in a direction I like. So, I'm going to obviously have to make a bracket, preferably something that locates at all 3 points, comes out, becomes a solid mounting point that will clear the head. And of course, I've got to make sure I've got enough swing room, so I'm probably still going to have to modify that solid mount just so that there's room behind that. Because I can space this out a little, but I would prefer to move the alternator back. So there's some things that have to happen there. It's not going to be fun, but we might actually just redesign that entire plate to have that mounting point and just have it cut. So that may actually wind up being the best solution. I'll deal with that. What I'm looking at is I can use this point as a reference because it clears all of this. I'd want to put a stud in there, because the last thing I would want that to do is slide. You don't want to go loosening because that goes into water. So there is that. So I would want it to be a stud because you got to loosen it to tighten the alternator. But then, if I had the right length belt, you can slide it a little bit. The easiest way right now is like that. And that would clear. not only would it clear the hose and everything, I'm pretty sure it's going to clear everything. Give me a minute. Looks like that would give us plenty of room. So putting it flat up to the top gives us gobs and gobs and gobs of room to the crank. Gives us plenty of room to run our hoses. You know, got to get creative with the angles, but that's why we bought so many angles. And like I said, if I had to shim that out a little, I can, not a problem. So that shows us where we still have to deal with the water pump. And obviously I've got to design this plate. It's not going to be fun, but I wonder if those dimensions exist online or if I'm going to have to brace that and pull it and make measurements of it. And that's probably what I'm going to have to do. But once I do that, if we do just cut a new plate, yeah, it won't be chrome, but that's fine. I can just put the bolt and the swing point wherever I want it. So that actually wouldn't be a bad deal, because you see that's the front motor mount for the motor plate. Not an uncommon thing in hot rods, you know, mounting off the face of the motor. So that's actually looking quite promising. Okay, I've started the modeling based on the alternator we have, which looks exactly like that because this is the part number. You know, that's where we bought it. So when I go to CVF, who I trust for dimensions, they say that a 1G case has these dimensions, you know, and the 3-inch thing. I don't care about that. The big thing being 7/16 hole, and it's going to be 6.8, whereas GM is 6.6. That's all fine. So this is the top hole, you know, the one that's got that 3-inch bit. This is the alignment hole. This is the slot that I have designed. So if I take that, you can see, so that's going to be the channel right here. So this channel right here is the slot. Unfortunately, I can't get as much width here as I'd like, but this should work. I don't know where my bounds are yet because I don't know where the mounts are yet. There should be like a hole here, a hole here, and a hole here, and then the plate going down. I've also got to measure this because I'm going to have to make sure the plate clears the back side of the alternator. That looks like they're not going to show me, are they? Okay. Well, anyway, you've seen the back of the alternator where the bearing rides. So that's one of the things I got to work on. Okay, before I start looking at what my limits are, because obviously that fuel pump's going to be one, I need to verify my alternator. I'm also looking just to make sure that I don't have any other issues. I think there's nothing, if I can keep it mounted low with the radiator and the fan, that's a concern. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of my way. The next area I'm curious about is obviously right down in here in the fender well. So let me look into that. Okay, we're still trying to verify exactly where the hole is. So I made a little, and this is too thin. I mean, this wouldn't work. But made that because one, I'm going to need to know where the notch needs to be here. But two, I'm really trying to locate that hole to a known position. And if it can be in plane with these, that makes that a lot easier. All right, this is for in my head. It's not going to be fun to measure, but you see this slide down here. Maybe you guys can see it. I don't really want it referenced here. This is one of the long bolts that goes into water, and I don't want that to ever have to get loosened. So what I would prefer is maybe we take these two bolts and kind of reference that. It arcs down, comes over, and then becomes that little cradle, kind of like what I've drawn here. Ideally, I want to be able to put the belt on with it in this position and have the belt tight between here and here. You can see when we come down here that I actually have quite a bit of room off axis. Remember, I'm going to move those wires. They're not going to be there. Won't have those next to this spinning fan. So, see, And in fact, right now, I can't really come in any further than that. I'm not sure what I'm hitting. Nothing over there. Could just be the end of something to do with all of this, but it doesn't matter. You know, so get the belt on, boom, tighten the belt. That's the idea. So, ShopDog just said someone's here. Just a little update here. Okay, I've got that bracket off, and I just wanted to check my extremes here. So, you can see I'm hitting something here. I have to figure out what. Oh, I think I know what. Yeah, that was just that stud, which could always be re-indexed. Okay, so you can see I'm that far in and can go that far out. That is a lot of adjustment room from that point. I can clear the fuel. I think we're going to wind up with a user serviceable filter here, not the one that comes apart that we have in there now. Oh crap, I don't know where I set it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It unscrews and obviously can leak because that happened to us. So we don't want that. So I think this is definitely, I like this whole location. It frees up a lot, especially if I'm going to go ahead and hog out the plate. The other thing is, of course, I'm going to square this plate up a little bit, because once I take some out of there, I don't want to lose any strength, and there's really no reason not to go ahead and do that. So we'll do that. You know, none of these locations has serious implication on the belt. You know, the belt is not an issue for everything I'm doing. No issues at all for the radiator. So the next thing I got to figure out is make sure my arc is correct. How do I reference these 2 points? Get something down there, allow myself the ability to offset it. Yeah, I think that's the next thing. And there's a chance that there might be little spacers here, and just move that bracket in and out to wherever the backside of that is. So that's really the next thing I got to figure out. Oh, and don't worry that that's leaning. It'll actually be right here. But that's going to give me plenty of room. You know, and you can see that's why I want to have that little slot back there. So, yeah, this is going to work. I may even still be able to do it with regular bolts too. I was worried that I was going to have to countersink these two, but I may not have to. ShopDog has asked for another pretzel because that's on his list. So, we're still working that out. I think I've got an approach though. I think this is going to work pretty slick. There may be better ways to do this, but I'm using a little cardboard aided design here. I've roughly located the center of this to be 9 7/8 from this and 350 mils higher. So just a little bit more than 3/8. So by knowing where that is and where this is, I can then take a gasket, get my other hole, make my measurements, you know, get all that, get my locating point. Then I stippled all those so that I could draw that out. And now I'm going to draw out the shape, cut it out, and then hold it here to see if I'm even in the ballpark. I mean, I could be way off. So that's the next thing I need to know. So that's my rough design. Let me get that cut out and let's see if that's even going to work. There is a reason we use cardboard for this kind of work. So you can see if I've got that squared up, that will slide. Hopefully you guys can see. Let me try to move you in. Boy, that's a difficult thing. So you can see, and also that's my limit. I'm going to change the end of that. And that would more than clear there. This spacer will change depending on how far back in. That winds up having to be to line up the pulleys, because you can see we're a little out, but it's irrelevant right now. The other thing I'd want to see is this even going to be an issue? I don't think so. Come on, you. There you go. Yeah, that's not even going to be a problem at all. So, yeah, so that's probably going to arc up and around. I don't know how we're going to do some of this, but we'll get there. Look at that. I think that's actually pretty close, but that's why we do it in cardboard. Also, you'll notice I've got a line drawn here. That's because for very little effort, I can get more adjustment range if I notch that and just kind of bring this around more. So that'll kind of come down and then over. But this is more than enough adjustment room to do what I want to do. So I'm getting really close to being able to bring this into the computer. In a ShopDog short, I have a solution. Let's throw a little light on there. Now, these aren't the right spacers. That'll have to be changed. I've got to make that bracket. I've got to remake this so that I have a hole here and so that it will clear the back of the alternator, because you can see how that is, because it's too far out right now. But you can see that'll work. That'll work really slick, and it gets the belt down away from our water and away from our electric fan. That's what we're going to have to do right there. Pretty cool. So we scanned those, dumped them in here, drew over, and here's the, I don't know if you can see it, there's that alternator, so got all that in there. Then that gives us the actual arm, which we then are going to cut out of some draft board and go out and try it. So in just a couple moments, we'll have something to test with. It is a handy tool. Here is that. So, just using some sockets. Remember, we're just spacing her out. So you can see that clears the frame. And remember, the engine's going to want to torque up, but with that motor plate, it shouldn't be able to really go anywhere. So next, I want to go ahead and put the alternator back in. Be right back. Alternator is back on there. Now this obviously isn't the way the bolt normally is. I've got that just lined up as a pin to show us. Now you notice that's sagging a little, so if I pick that up just a little, make her square. Look at that. So remember that notch I wanted? And then let's see, all the way out is too far. See? So that's what we want. Too much. Honestly, I can probably even shorten that bracket a little bit. But this is going to work. So the next thing, of course, is this plate's going to have to come off. But that's probably not going to happen right now. We'll come back to that in a bit. Anyway, that bracket's going to work. Goes around this, no problem. You could still get in there and tighten that up. Yeah, and gives plenty of room for us to actually put our filter. I'm real happy about that. So we'll have our fuel filter right here. Tons of room. Okay, the next thing I think I'm going to do real quick, just to verify everything, just to make sure, is I'm going to slide the radiator back in. Turns out, plenty of clearance. So much more than there ever was before. Now, obviously, I don't have all that in there, and I know that's going to take up some space. But this will work. So, pretty happy with that. Don't know how much closer or better we could have gotten that. That is the bracket we have to make. I've got that sitting on some wood, keeping it up out of the way. So, shouldn't go anywhere. But yeah, that's how motor plates work right there. Right, I think I'm getting pretty close here. Ignore the blue tape. If I drag that, you can see the back of the alternator now clears the green. And that green is the new bracket. So that slides pretty nice. Pretty happy with that. Okay, so using 1/2 inch plate for the mount and 1/4 inch for the arm. That would be $106, not including shipping, for 2 sets. I think I'm also going to design some various spacers, and I definitely still want to cut that out of draft board and go verify it. I have printed it right here, so when I lift that, you can see that's all the holes line up. That's exactly what I'm trying to do, so that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So that's kind of where we're at. And here you can see the new cuts on the plate and the arm. A little more clearance on the arm now. Obviously this won't be the right spacing, and this obviously isn't the right thickness. And yes, I do know that this is aluminum. I'm still ordering the plate in steel. Oh, can't see my hand. Here, let me zoom out. I'm ordering it in steel. We're going to do all of our development that way. And then later, if he decides he wants to take and have a piece chromed or redone or whatever he wants to do, polish some aluminum, we already have it. He can do that, and then that's just, you know, a day of dicking around swapping it. But for now, I'm going to do it in steel, because if I have to make any changes here, I can weld steel. I can't weld aluminum. That's just not in my skill set. All right, and based on just that last little bit, it looks like I need just a tiny bit more clearance here to make that as easy as I want it to be. So we can go in and fix that. It's not too big a deal. Pretty happy with our adjustment arm. I have absolutely no idea how you're going to get a tool in here and adjust it. You know, that's a different fight. But you only got to do it once, right? I'm very happy with the other fitment. All of those bolts just lined right up. Not a problem at all. So this is going to work. I'm going to go monkey around with that. Kevin and Cheryl should be coming up pretty soon. In fact, I've got the heat running, getting it nice and warm in there so she can work on her vinyl. And yeah, I think this is going to kind of wrap up a Courier video. I'm going to make a few minor changes here, and I think we're going to send that order off to SendCutSend and get that moving. And with any luck, we can get that pretty quick. So, thanks for watching. Sorry this has been such a jumbled video, but believe it or not, this has taken a week. So, anyway, thanks for watching. And just as an addendum, you knew I would cut that other piece. So, I trimmed out that little C for the back of the alternator. I'll go check it out real quick. But yeah, I figured I better cut it. What's it cost me? Nothing. This has been another ShopRex approved video.